everybody's harping after integrity.
Yeah.
No one thought they could have a life unless it's integrity.
Yeah.
Who's the key holders, as Matty spoke about, of integrity? Smooth face. I gotta send that in the group. 1 minute.
Yes, bros.
Hey.
No.
Hey there, no.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
Yes.
A little bit behind, you know?
It's all good, man.
Yes, no.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, I think Smooth's coming back. All right. So, guys, we are good to go, man. Like, as usual, we don't want to take up lots of everyone's time. But this important conversation that we've been having, it was really good last time. I think that we definitely got to, I think, the root of a couple issues, and I think the conversation wasn't finished, so we wanted to continue. So, Joseph, just to fill you in, before we launch in and kind of introduce everyone for the sake of broadcast. But we kind of, as you know, we asked a question about timeless music. What is a timeless song? And so we each kind of gave our thoughts on what that was. And then we kind of launched into whether the UK gospel music scene industry has any timeless songs. And I think opinion was split at first, but in the end, we kind of came to a conclusion that because of what timelessness really is, we probably have potential timeless songs, but they didn't reach timelessness because they weren't carried forward in the way that they should have been, could have been. And I guess that's launched the conversation forward to where we are now, where we're discussing exactly why that is. Like, to be explicit, who's responsible? Like, who hasn't carried it forward? Who hasn't carried it forward in terms of like churches singing it, people who could have done more, people who were there in the thick of it, artists who have maybe had to change their course as a result of the industry not responding to where they were or what they were doing. That was a very good example of somebody who's adapted his ministry or artistry with the times. And we end up where we are now. So we're going to ask, I think this one, we're going to ask some hard-hitting questions, I think. That's definitely what I want. So let me just make sure Smooth, you there?
Have you got intro music?
I don't know. Exactly, like last time, innit? Are you there?
He's waiting for the band.
He's getting his merchandise to show.
As long as he's there.
He's setting up his merchandise in the front.
So this is what we're going to do. Let's go from the top of my screen. Obviously, everyone's screen is probably different. And just everyone do a quick introduction with their name and who they are. And then we're going to launch into it. So, Ryan, if you go first for me, please.
Cool. My name is Ryan Bruce, 29 years old, from London, living in LA. I work in music marketing.
Boom. Alicia?
Alicia, I'm 39 years old. I'm a drummer.
No.
Yes, I'm 40 this year, peeps. Can't believe it.
Really, Alicia?
You're looking good for it, girl.
1980,
Properly?
Proper 40, November 5th.
Wow.
Thank you.
Fine, Alicia.
Scorpio people.
Really don't crack, Brian.
Right.
Sorry, we interrupted your. Sorry, your Kinney. Go again, please. 39 years old. Go on.
I'm a drummer and I'm from London. That's it.
Boom.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're right.
Hey guys, I'm Jesse, 28 from London, musician.
I love the way everyone's playing it. Joseph.
Joseph Ross from Birmingham, 49 years old, will be 50 this year. Musician from
Nobody looks their age, you know. Literally nobody.
Right.
Max.
Oh, me. All right. Hello, everybody. Becky Thomas, choir director of LTGC, singer. That's it, mum. Woo-hoo, turn up.
Branoy.
Noel Robinson, 43 years old, London, artist.
What did you say, 40?
was like,
What, you
what?
say 43?
43 of that, bro. All right.
That's your house.
44.
Yeah, I did.
Now, mate, 57, mate.
Really?
No.
Oh, look
Time
at
it.
All good, bro.
Oh
Yes,
my!
no.
Everyone's just looking like they just be eating organic farm food, boy.
me.
Matty,
Cucumber water, mate. Cucumber water. Get me.
go for it, Matty.
Matty Brown, young entrepreneur,
Oi.
Boy,
44 years old, musician. You know, we do it all around there, mate. Do it all around there.
Wicked. Happy birthday and that.
Yeah,
Mm.
happy birthday.
Yes.
Happy birthday, fam.
Wicked. Minister Smooth.
Yes, sir. Greetings. Michael Hamilton, a musician and a friendly person, business owner, dancer, choreographer, choir director. So I can, I'm
Choreographer, you know.
I get right. Musician and bass player from London.
Wicked. I think that's everyone. And myself, I'm IO Ace, a year and day musician, keyboard player, creative director, and altogether fan of everyone in this room. So let's.
Yo, what's your full name, bro? I bet I don't know your full name.
You do IO, a year and day. You're so stupid.
what?
Yeah, but I always.
No, it is.
I thought it was gonna be like a little add-on, bro.
I was not your name, bro. Stop trying it, bro.
Of course, Io's my name, and it means joy. Ayodele for full. Ayodele. I'm not ashamed.
That's right, bro. Don't be ashamed.
Exactly. All right, so let's launch into it. So, guys, we know what we spoke about last week, and I think we all kind of ended up on the same page about what timeless music is, and even if we had slightly different opinions on it, in the end we were kind of in sync about the fact that timeless music kind of spans different generations, but the reason it can span different generations is because the music is carried from generation to generation. Like, there's nothing mystical about timeless music, or almost nothing mystical about the song itself, other than the song's great. But what makes it timeless is who carries it forward. So a great example, as you used last week, is there's no generation that doesn't know Michael Jackson.
Right.
Like my young nephew, who is 3 going on 4, is at, and we all know it, the Michael Jackson stage where everything's Michael Jackson.
Yep.
The choreography, the singing, all of that. Nobody knows how he really discovered Michael Jackson.
Right.
His dad didn't, and mum didn't force it down his neck or anything. Comes home, Michael Jackson, watching This Is It every day. So for whatever reason, Michael Jackson's music just keeps coming, the whole catalogue. So we know that's a great example of timelessness. So, but it is carried from generation to generation. So UK gospel, we kind of mentioned some songs that we thought could be candidates, some great songs that some people like Noel have written and performed, and even others in this group. But they haven't probably had the exposure and haven't had the vehicle to make it to timelessness. So I guess now part 2 of the conversation is really getting to the bottom of why our music doesn't have the vehicle. And I guess we started last week talking about ourselves at home, as in the UK, church to church, person to person, all the rest of it. We spoke a little bit about the American music market system, all the rest of it. But I've written down a few questions I want to ask. Right, I'm gonna go in right deep with one, because last week we spoke about ourselves as a black church and a black people straight away, and this week I'm gonna go in straight on this angle. Here's the first question: jump in as Uno see fit. How has the white church affected our growth here in the UK on a musical level? And I'm sure it will cross.
Do you know what? I wouldn't even answer that question. I would ask, how's Black America affected our growth?
Okay.
Forget about white America. Forget about white. how has Black America affected our growth?
Okay, and please do explain why you have altered the question, because I would keep the question the same, but I'd love to hear why you've done that.
The reason why is that most of us, as like I said, growing up, I didn't hear gospel music till I was like 12. Right, that's how deep it was, right? And that's because I'm Windrush, right? First generation, and we're like 60 people, young people in our church, and we ain't got no songs to sing because we're singing what our parents sang, and we're doing everything that our parents did, all the old Caribbean choruses, and all of a sudden we found Andre Crouch, rare, Black American. Wow, what's that? Then we found the Hawkins. So we had our own songs. We started to sing their song because that's who we identified with. I'm telling you the truth. We identified with, you know, Black America so much that actually throughout the 80s, our whole mantra was to, the closer we sounded to America in our vocals and our presentation, what was going on, was the better we were, in quotes.
Okay.
That's the question for me, because all the white world has done basically is provided content that we haven't got, or we've failed to recognize. That's a simple thing. The reason why we sing Hillsong, worship song, is because they write it specifically to be sung in church. They write it for the Christian to encounter God in whatever moment they are. Bethel, all these worship houses, Black America, I feel, and has been the greatest influence, but I think that my issue has been, well, I'm described as, right, in the 90s when I started doing worship, they were going, yeah, the UK's Ron Canoli.
Yeah.
And it was like, rare. Then it was, people found out I could play guitar and sing. Then it was like, oh, the UK's Israel Houghton. Whoa, and I'm like going, whoa, I'm always under the shadow of this American thing when I've actually stopped trying to be American, even though I have the American influence, because that's where I learned my music. That's where I learned. But I think that has been the biggest attack on our creativity. So anybody doing anything, you're held in the light of. So I.O. writes a banging song. Is it as good as American? So when T.D. Jakes started to sing Rain, right, I had a conversation with some people in an event, and I sang the event, and we met for lunch with some people, and they started saying, wow, we really like your version, but we like the original. And I was like, what original do you like? And they went, oh, we love T.D. Jakes' version of the song that sang at his church. And I was like, well, I was with Jonathan Brown, the head of integrity at the time, and he turned around and said, Noel wrote that song. They went, no, Noel didn't write it. He heard it from T.D. Jakes. I was like, wow. So that's why I said I'd rephrase the question. But if you want to go back to the original, I'm cool.
Yeah, no, but
it's a great starting point, because
it is
definitely, I think up until a generation, that is definitely the case. So that's definitely a good place to start. But I think I don't know the time frame, but I know that the white church culture creeped in.
I know the time frame. It started with one song. It's called "Shout to the Lord" by Darlene.
Yes,
Totally.
yes.
No, it started before that. You know.
No, but on a global scale, no, that's the song that we can say, like, started moving everybody over to this. Hold on, something's going on in Australia, and we're all singing these songs. Yeah, and then don't get me wrong. I mean, I almost want to let Jesse finish, because
No, I'm done, bro. I'm done.
Are you done? All right, cool. So there's a lot of nuggets you dropped in there, right? The first one is the distinction. When people were calling you the UK Ron Canoli, right? Now I get what you're talking about comparison between UK and American, but I feel like you get that across the board in music, because America is seen as the mecca of music. I don't think that's exclusive to gospel. If a black R&B artist comes up now singing well, doing choreography, they're going to be compared to Destiny's Child or Beyonce. Like it's automatic until you reach that plateau yourself. I don't care where you're from, to be honest, right? So, but what I found in your distinction was, at first it was Ron Canoli, who was black worship leader,
Yeah.
not seen to be doing white music. For me, he came after Crouch in terms of being that bridge between black and the white community, but
he certainly was.
Black-led music, right? So were you okay with that comparison?
Well, at first I was, because I was in a mindset that, wow, if you're comparing me to the great Ron Canoli, and obviously I was his MD, weren't I? So to me, it was like, wow, that's like actually a tick on my shoulder.
Yeah.
But then I meet Israel Houghton in 2006 in a hotel in London. And I didn't go to meet him, I meant to meet somebody else. And Wayne Herms can testify to this. He calls my name out. I didn't even see him in the restaurant. He goes, oh my God, Noel Robinson. I go, well, and he goes, man, you did an album in 2001 called Worthy in This Place. Man, you brought the funk, man. You brought the thing. And I was like going, rare. I didn't even know that you listened to the music. Now, because of our association, then it was Noel Robinson. And, somebody told me blatant to my face, yeah, man, you're trying to be like Israel Houghton. And I was like going, well, I'm not saying that his sound didn't influence me. I'm not saying that. But this is what happens. So you get somebody like a Lorin Cato, who is an amazing singer, and we have loads of vocalists, right? But in the minds of much of our public and our people, there's this whole thing about, well, hold on a second. Oh, you're not as good as the Americans. When the Americans come, they come with everything and blah, 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 blah. And you get all that stuff. So I'm not anti-American. What I'm saying is that when that becomes the barometer, then it's quite difficult for you as an artist to be yourself. Because you're always going to be measured by this or by this other thing there. Okay. Hence why, like I said, my argument was, for the first time, we've had a black artist break the CCM marketplace. Sinach is number one.
Yeah.
Her song is number one, and she's the number one writer. But it's in the CCM. Black America have not even, and Brian was with me on this. Black America have not even recognized that this woman's got a song that's like traveling like nobody's business.
And they're singing her song as well. That's
and they are singing their song, but they've not even recognized it.
But that's
why I go, because you won't find anybody that's not American in their system. Kirk is not giving anybody a hand up. Donnie McClurkin not giving nobody a hand up. But what you see in the white world, I got a hand up in the white world when Lee then signed my song. I got a hand up in the white world when I got signed by Integrity. I got a hand up, and it's not a hand up, but I got reached out to. People want to sing my songs all over the world. And I go, hold on a second.
Oh, can I ask you a question? Just to
go ahead, mate.
Did you get a hand up because you were coming with a food or a drink that they recognize?
Right.
You would got a hand up if you were still doing music that had evolved from Worthy in This Place, because Israel knew your name and he called you out in the hotel for bringing the funk, and that was exclusive to you. You wrote it. There was Luke on there. There was, I can't remember.
Yeah, man. Every man.
I sat in my room. Me and the fan used to sit in our room, right?
And you learned the stuff.
And we'd have 8 keyboards out, sitting like front to front. And we knew your set back to front. The part, totally. Without nobody asking us to even listen to it, right? That was the influence of the people we were having in our community. I sat on the riser watching you, Fish, all those guys, right? So to me, you were Noel Robinson, not the UK's Ron Canoli. And believe me, I'm Nigerian. I know who Ron Canoli is, right?
but I'm talking about the people who make timeless songs are not necessarily artists. It's the people on the ground who buy into what's going on.
I get it.
Yeah, so that's why.
But you're talking about the hand up though, and it goes back to my original question.
And I used the word wrong. I think I shouldn't use the word hand up, because to me it's not hand up after doing 20 odd years, 30 odd years of it.
It's a level of acceptance.
Yeah, totally.
A level of acceptance. But I put to you that wouldn't have come had you still been doing music that we all would be palatable. That would be palatable to us. I'm going to leave us and let's go to Matty. What are you thinking about what you're hearing?
I can't really. I can't hang.
Why?
I don't really know. Honest opinion, brother. Yeah.
And this is why I say it's different. Definitely.
No, so Jesse, do me a favor. Expand on that, because I want to keep everybody included in the conversation, because everybody is relevant.
What Unc just said, is so true about us, like black churches singing black songs and us being influenced by them, and everything you said is perfect. I think there was a switch with our generations where we came in and singing Lord You Are Good just got rinsed. So we started singing Fall to the Floor, 120 BPM rock songs. And that's when I would say the white church kind of infiltrated more than when Darlene Chet came in. And this is not saying that we weren't singing them songs. And this is also relative to your church, because your church could have been singing different stuff. Like my church might still be singing old Caribbean songs. But I know at the time when I was at New T, after the Israel Alton phase, that was the induction of like Freedom, and I can't remember all the songs that we got. Eddie James. That era there was like, it was every week. Lord, You're Awesome. All of those songs. That's where we started to sing it. And then when How Great, I don't know if it was before or after, forgive me, How Great Is Our God. That was it. That when that song first came out, I don't know one church that didn't sing that song. And I thought that to me was the kind of beginning of our churches going, okay, not just the songs, but the culture. So when Matty's like, I don't really know what to say, it's because where these guys and my generation became privy to the culture of it, was us singing How Great Is Our God. And I'm talking about every week.
Wow.
So like, for me, I was going from one church to the other. Like, Alicia will know and Ryan will know. Obviously, Dad was at Ruach from 03 to 17. So I was going Ruach from 03 to 08. And then, but at that time, I was going from like Kojic to Ruach, just because like I wanted to go to church with my grandma and then go to church with my mum and dad. And then I remember around like 2006, I think like the youth church at the time was just doing bare like Hillsongy kind of songs. So like Ruach Youth was doing like a whole, and Ryan will know, like, like, and then obviously then the main service was still kind of like normal. So it was like, wow, it's kind of like proper two different churches. And then, from then it was just like a wrap. So I get what Jesse was talking about, but then I'll go to my grandma's church and there was no CCM or like Fall to the Floor.
Can I ask a question, Matty?
You know what? I think,
Can you remember? Sorry, Ryan, I'm coming to you right in a sec, right? You know, when you went to your grandma's church, what kind of songs were being sung?
The same songs that are being sung now, bro.
What kind of
the Bleeding Lamb.
That's right.
Bun them.
That's right.
Bun them with the Holy Ghost.
The Bleeding Lamb.
You know what I mean?
No, it's quite kind of like him, old Caribbean song kind of driven.
Yeah, and then me and Bex will kind of incorporate the, you know, the CCM kind of Israel Houghton, maybe some like James Fortune, just here and there. But the core of it is really old school because it's an old school song. Church, sorry.
Yeah. All right, cool. Ryan, go for it, bro.
I think I don't know who was that mentioned. Well, Matthew mentioned it, and someone else mentioned it as well in regards to the sort of infiltration of that Hillsong culture. And that happened. I think a lot of that was to do with the fact that Hillsong did something that I think was really impactful in terms of, you know, expanding their brand, and is that with the millennial culture, they really done well with capturing the university crowd. And so what happens with a lot of the young people in our churches grew up and they went to university, and a lot of them were, you know, kind of spread around and started going to places that may have been a little bit further out from their church, and they wanted somewhere local to go to. And a lot of them started going to Hillsong, and then they started bringing that music back, you know, when they left junior or whatever, when they started bringing that music back to their churches, right? And that's the first point I want to make. But I think back to what Noel was saying, and this was mentioned last week as well, and it all ties in because we were talking about self-hate last week. And we were talking about, you know, just in our community, just, you know, not in UK gospel, just Black people as a whole, right? And if you notice, when it comes to creating timeless music and allowing music to expand beyond its cultures, for some reason the Black church has done so much favor for the CCM world, which hasn't been, you know, it hasn't been. It hasn't been
Consistently, bruv.
And I think the problem that we have created amongst ourselves is that we, in fact, a lot of the songs that haven't become timeless has been our fault. We've been too, and this is no disrespect to Matt Redman or Chris Tomlin, but we have been so busy singing their songs, perpetuating their culture, making their songs timeless. We've completely ignored a whole wave of our own. And so, you know, you find, I mean, if you take a record like Fred Hammond's Blessed, you can't tell me that song's not timeless, but you won't hear Hillsong singing that song. You'll never hear them singing that song. And so I think what we have to focus on creating a timelessness within our own our own culture.
Ryan.
Can I say something?
Ryan.
Truth
What you're saying there, this is what I was talking about. Because before I got signed with Worthy in This Place album, I'm going to tell you the truth. What they said to me, I got offered to do an album, to produce an album. And what they wanted me to do was take the top 10 CCLI and do a funky version to it, right? Right? And I was really, really pleased because I was like going, yeah, man, I'm going to call the boys. We're going to just do a thing on it, right? And I'm being honest, the Holy Ghost arrested me.
Good.
Big time. I'm being real. And he said to me, I have invested so much creativity in you, and you're going to put your creativity on another man's song, right? This is what he said. And he goes, Lord, I lift your name is the last song you do that with. Remember the da-da-da?
Yeah.
That's the last song you do that with. From now on, write your songs.
Can I say something?
I was arrested. And when I told them, they were so disappointed. In actual fact, I think Matty's dad produced that album. In the end, I'm being real. And they were upset with me because I said, this is what racism is. You're giving me the songs to sing, and then you're telling me that my songs can't be sung in your churches. Why? And I said, it's nothing to do with the songs. The song, if Take That can sing, them songs with 15 key changes, the verse and chorus in 2 different keys. Why can't the white church do that now? They started giving me some whole foolishness, and I said, no, I'm not doing it. And I said, until you do, and they go, I said, I'm not singing nobody's song, none of you guys' songs, until you sing my songs. And up to this day, Tasha Cobbs, you name all the top artists. The only one out of all them black artists that sing their own first was Israel. Tasha Cobbs don't write her big hits. Yeah. It's all white songs that are converted. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is why I'm saying that. Sorry, I'm going to come off, yeah.
No,
you got to put it as well, because the same thing.
This is
the same thing that Benita Washington does as well.
This is why
Benita Washington is like big off songs that it's got nothing to do with.
Not hers.
Yeah, it's not hers.
What happened was your generation, in like last year you said our generation didn't look after you or whatever, but your generation tried to skip by us and do like a load of American stuff. You could have taken Mark Beswick songs and done a flex on it. Pause. What happened?
Who's coming?
But because the legacy that we left behind in the thinking is that, well, what we do here as black people in the UK is not good enough. We have to go to America. So many of our artists, and I named them, they have not. Listen.
Yo, I'm gonna say something. Yeah.
Why are you talking about Isaiah Raymond's album, which is 20 years old?
Yeah.
But don't
Why are you talking about Mark Beswick's Power Praise, which is 20 years old?
Because it was dope and never saw the right light of day.
Yeah, but what happened in between that and now?
No, let me ask 1 minute. We're going to come back. We're going to come back. We're going there now. Smooth, jump in.
Cool. So one of the things that I want to say, I want to play devil's advocate, so to speak. If you really check it, yeah, a lot of the gospel artists that the question that you asked about what is the white church, can you say the question again?
Yeah, because notice we've come right back round to the original version of the question. That's why I didn't want to depart from it. How has the white church affected our growth here in the UK as like black music, black church, whatever?
Cool. Well, I partially think that we've affected our own growth in that. What the white church have done, they've made songs that somebody said earlier that people, that a whole congregation can sing. Now, if you really check some of the artists that we really check for, that we listen to, whoever they, you know what I mean, whoever they be, even like take Kim Burrell, for example. Like some of the songs that she's written, they're very self in terms of like only you can sing it. You can't sing that in a church.
They're performance.
You can't sing it.
Yeah.
You can't. Yeah, they're performance based. So you couldn't go into church and start singing the Prodigal Son, because Prodigal Son wouldn't work. Because like, but whereas now the white church have come and they've made choruses like "Here I Am to Worship" or do you know what I mean? All these songs that we're talking about, and they're very easy to sing. The melody's simple. The words are not too much. But if they have got verses, the verses they're easy to follow because the melodies, do you know what I mean? Whereas we start to come up with all these songs that are very riffy and they've got so many parts in them.
But smooth. Kimbrough never set herself up as a worship leader.
I'm not saying she set herself up, but all right, cool.
But Delaney or go ahead.
Go on, smooth.
Go ahead.
That's the music that we're listening to kind of get inspiration from. But if they're who are the worship leaders then? Who are the people that you would say you're going to follow as a worship leader? So,
why I mentioned a good one. Why I mentioned a good one. People like Fred.
I mean, you got William McDowell. You got William.
No. That's
like
new. That's new. Let's not skip a generation, because all these new generation have already been infiltrated. So what we're dealing with, and what Noel said about how we didn't carry it forward. I want to say, before I come to Joseph, right? Is Joseph frozen? No, he's there. Before I come to
I'm here, man.
Yeah. So, no, I found it very interesting that he's saying that we didn't carry the songs forward, because I know personally, I was to do with albums in the UK, playing on and even writing songs and stuff that should be sung now and kind of are actually sung around the world by different places. You maybe just don't know them because they weren't big here, right? But I'm what, 37?
Yep.
So 15 years ago, how old was I? 27. I was Matty's age. Jesus is Lord. 15 years ago, I was around Matty's age, right?
Oh, let's leave that one.
What church was I leading that I had any influence over what was being sung?
None at all, mate.
Exactly. So it's not our generation that did anything. When I came into, like,
that's interesting.
At any point where I could have any influence, Roger Grandison, with the wickedest thing.
They ain't trying to listen to me, bruv.
But then don't you think, guys?
One sec, babe. Let me just finish, right?
Go on.
The wickedest thing is this. We keep talking about Americans, and I hear what Smooth was saying in terms of the kind of incarnation of gospel music that we've listened to growing up, right? But there have been worship leaders, Alvin Slaughter, all these guys, they have made music that is congregational, and they are worship leaders. In the UK particularly, we have had worship leaders that are worship leaders, and the songs are congregational, and the songs are dope, and they've not been infiltrated, or they weren't infiltrated with what we're talking about, as in, like, the music. Like, put it this way, on a
the
Sunday,
worship leaders of that generation don't even sing their songs anyway.
But
exactly.
That's where we're coming to, Matty. That's where we're coming to. But why don't they sing their songs?
There's got nothing to do about my generation.
Yeah. But here's the thing, though, right? Here's the thing. The reason why I think they don't sing their songs is because they felt like they weren't getting anywhere by singing their songs. And that's the real issue, right? We'll come at Joseph. Where did it all change for you? Like, what's your perspective on everything you've heard so far?
All very valid points. For me, obviously being in prophecy, and Noel will kind of, and Becky will kind of identify with this. I think for me, it changed that we had a national youth conference in Torquay, I believe it was 91. Was it Noel? Was it with David Baroni?
Yeah.
Yeah. And up until that point, it was like the term for worship leaders was song leaders, stuff like that. So for me, that changed the style of worship, the style of songs. David Baroni came. I don't know how many people know of David Baroni, but he came. I
was with him the other night, and I think it's cool guy.
Yeah. he came with something completely different. And I saw that change in, like, say, with Noel, because Noel was part of the band at that conference. and then Noel kind of took up the mantle and started kind of changing the face of worship in this country. That's what I saw, because being in prophecy, Noel was a trailblazer and still is now, where the worship scene kind of changed in the UK. So for me, I like change, but I don't like we doing away with what we was brought up on. And I think there was a time where everything kind of went out the window. And we alienated a lot of our elders in the services. And they were, I think with that generation, they passed something down to us that was quite tangible. And they, and then what we then brought down, I think, to the younger generation, I think styles kind of changed. And I think even with that, I wouldn't even say it was a gospel thing, because secular music, it was a big influence, and that kind of style that people was listening to was brought into gospel. You know, a lot of the secular drummers back then, like say the early 90s, it was the New Jack Swing, it was the whole Blackstreet, Jodeci, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of that generation was listening to that type of music. The style of drumming, with guys like Gerald Hayward, all that kind of stuff was then kind of filtered into like the gospel style of music. So for me, it was cool, but then it wasn't, I wouldn't really say it was UK gospel. I would say it was more of a secular sound. That's my kind of take on it. Not that was anything wrong with it, because we all learn from secular music, but I think I can only say what I know, which was where Noel, we all brought up in that denomination. I can say Noel took that on and then carried it through. So, but for me, I do think we have lost some of that identity, and it saddens me sometimes when I go to church and I see the old generation just kind of stood around there, really not knowing what they're singing, because sometimes we've taken it a bit too far left.
Yeah,
that's my opinion.
I like it, Joseph. Thank you, Becky.
Oh God. It's a couple of points that I want to make. There's one where Ace, you were saying, like, you know, when I was 22, you know, when I was 25, whatever, who was listening to me, blah, blah, blah. And I think our generation, I guess all of us that are in our 30s-ish now, I won't speak for everyone, but I kind of think that we all kind of hit our 20s and was kind of like, let's get some work, let's gig, let's do gospel away from church. So none of us really, I don't think a lot of us took on that praise and worship leader role, whereas Noel and them, when they were in their 20s coming up, they were the heads of the music department nationally.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We weren't doing that. We were kind of like, yeah, all right, church, I see you on Sunday. I'm not really taking on any roles. And I mean, I'm talking for me. Let me not talk for everybody.
No. That's a very interesting, valid point that you're making.
Interesting point.
A lot of us stepped back and was kind of like, you know, I ran the kids choir until I hit like 25, and I was like, all right, bye. Youth choir, same kind of age. I was like, all right, bye. I want a gig now. I want to make some money, real money. You know, some days there's gigs, you know. So I kind of, for me, so I think a lot of our generation did that. We kind of like, okay, we've seen what these lot can do, and we're younger than them. We've got a little bit more time. How about we jump in now so that we've got even longer time in, you know what I mean? So then we weren't, obviously they're not going to listen to us with like music or whatever, because we didn't show the church that we wanted to really take on that mantle and be like, look, okay, look, we're going to be the new praise and worship. That's why at my church, the same praise and worship leader I had when I was 6, 7, Sandra is still the praise and worship leader now, but she does a few churches. But do you know what I mean? It's like, oh,
there's not
so
handing on.
Yeah, that kind of, and then now what I've seen at my church is that the younger ones who are like 16, they're now the praise and worship leaders at my church.
And what are they singing?
They're singing, you know, the Hillsongy stuff. You know what I mean? Or if they heard, or if they've heard a song like the other day, this little girl got up, 14 years old, youth service, and she raised up, you know, that reggae tune, God is standing by, and the whole church is like, yeah, and I was like, this is not praise and worship, guys. We're in the dance. But like, when you're asking about how the white CCM kind of influenced the black church, or sorry, whatever the question was, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
For me, I think the flip was our churches in the 80s, 90s, we were singing songs that were, you know, they were spiritual, you know, they had a little vibe to them. You could catch a spirit off of them. But then the white CCM came in with that relationship music. If you hear the way that they speak, the language that they use. So like the older generation, so pre-Noel and them, God is a good God. Yes, he is. And they could get off on that. Our generation wanted relationship. So we wanted that, you know, I want to tell God I love him. I want to tell you, I
Absolutely.
need you, use me. You know, you're the air I breathe. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. We don't speak like that, but we didn't know how to. The white church figured out a way to use that language to create a whole
I feel
the black church.
I feel like they adapted.
Go on, Matthew.
Go on, Matt.
I feel like they adapted to our generation. That, as you said, they were much simpler to sing, much simpler to play.
Melodies were just the one.
Yeah, melodies, and it was more cooler to kind of sing them as well. Like, even like me growing up in church, I found it quite enjoyable to kind of put a twist to that music and kind of play it the black way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like doing a gig, really. It's like when you're doing like a nice little Westlife or pop music. It's kind of like you can manipulate the ballad in a way that you would kind of do it in church. You know what I mean? But
you raise me up,
guys. I got
you raise me up.
Yeah.
You raise me up, bruv.
No, one of our own is the tune, guys. One of our own is my jam. Freddie, you should slap that. I've got an issue, right? And I don't really. I agree with everyone, but I feel like we're skipping a big chunk in the middle, right? That Ron Canoli era. What happened after Ron Canoli, Alvin Slaughter, like the Luther Vandross vocal, that middle era where they were writing songs that everybody was singing, white and black. There's a point where it changed, because you can't tell me that Ron Canoli didn't have the dope, funky songs that were easy enough to sing and all the rest of it. That's why Ron Canoli was who he was, and he wasn't even the dopest singer.
Okay, can I give you a backdrop to some of that time, right? Because when Ron Canoli came out, it was so huge and the whole world was singing.
Yes.
But what you have, right, especially like in a country like England where, 65 million people, 3% are black. Most of us as black musicians, we don't read music, we just hear it and play it, right? That's the score. So it's easy for us to reproduce what Ron does. What was happening is that the church was crying out that not every white church, there's 46,000 churches in this country, right? And that's a lot of churches, isn't it? And most of them are less than 100 people, right? And what this is what I said about the white world's thinking was, how can we get some of those 46,000 people to engage in this culture of worship? I did Ron Canoli at Docklands, like 7,000 people turned up, huge gig. Everybody loved it. It was a concert. It was a worship thing. Yeah, I was MD and it was brilliant. But I also realised that I couldn't do a lot of Ron Canoli songs. I couldn't do some of his songs in my local church because the musicians couldn't cut it, let alone the singers. So they came this whole mass, and maybe the word is wrong to use, dumbing down or making it accessible.
No, that's the right word.
To Auntie Mary, who's 45 years old. Uncle Jack, who's 60 years old, he plays bass. Billy, who's 15, plays drums. And we've got Susan, who plays flute. And this is our worship team. Now, how do we get this church, who's got 70 people in there, to engage in this worship? So I'll tell you what, let's come with not even what's the name could do it. The Australian guys could do it. Also, let's come with Matt Redman. Oh, I'm coming back to the heart of. And what did they do? They provided the music sheets for it, because half of these people in these churches can't play by ear. They can't change up nothing. All they can do is follow the music sheet, because Auntie Mary is a music teacher in school. And this is what happened. So what happened was, constantly worship was getting dumbed down away from the musical context of Ron Canoli, because I was his MD and his stuff was hard to play. Do not mess, right? And he, you know, and he wanted every note exactly. So what I was saying is that for me, the dumbing down came when the worship world in the UK especially, they weren't bothered about what the black church was singing. They were concerned about, how do we get our white churches to engage in this worship thing? So shine, Jesus, shine. Have you seen a chord chart for that? There ain't no flat and fifth, ninth thing that you can put in there. Or you can, if you want, but it's not written down. So everybody began to sing it because they could play it. They made it accessible. So that's where this thing, what you call dumbing down, pervaded the church, where all the songs now came out with 3 chords or 4 chords. That's where the dumbing down.
I believe that's what Smooth was alluding to when he's talking about congregational songs, melody.
Totally. And they saw it. They saw it. Whereas we, like in this conversation, we're musicians. So for me, playing for Ron Canoli in those days, and when Ron Canoli sent me, this is how deep it was, he sent me the scores. Bruv, there was 2 big boxes that came. There was 30 odd songs. First trombone part, second trombone part, horns, flute part, the bass part, keyboard, first keyboard part.
That's because of how they recorded it.
When it came to the house, I went, what's going on? Right? So you understand. Now, you can't bring that to anything. So there was this fight back against what Integrity brought in. Now, all of a sudden, you've got some of the other guys coming out with simple songs that the church went, oh, we can sing this. And the worship world, the white worship world was going, yes, you guys, sing this. This is how you can bring your worship up to date. Sing this song. Here's a music chart. Sing this song. Here's a music chart. Even today, up till today, right, I had to have all my songs scored out to 4 chords. Are you hearing me? Even though it's got a lot more chords in it, they scored it out to 4 chords. Sometimes when I played it, I'm like going, you know what? That's not the chord, you know. But they made it simple for the masses.
I understand.
Which goes to CCLI. You make the most money from CCLI, not because the size of the church sings it. It's the amount of churches. They call it the long tail. So all those churches that are 1,000 people up, they don't really count for much. It's all the little churches that are singing the songs that make the most money. That's why Matt Redman's song, what's the last one that he did, the big one that he did, you know, a big song, everybody started singing it. The song made him a couple of $100,000. I'm not even talking about the latest song. Our God is Greater made 250,000. Now, this is the legacy of it, is that it was recorded something like 300 times on 300 different artists' album. In Christ Alone, Stuart Townend, Live in Brighton, it's the song that he lives off. It's been recorded over 1,000 times on other people's album. I've heard it in R&B, I've heard it in country, I've heard it in Christ Alone. This is why when we talk about legacy, if nobody sings your song, then you ain't got no legacy.
I think.
Sorry, but go around.
No, go. Who was that? Jesse, you can go.
Yeah.
Go on, Jess.
I was going to say, I think what we're missing out is culturally the ignorance of our people. I think sorry, I asked a question. You said what happened after that Ron Canoli era. I think everybody became so self-orientated that we didn't change. We just kept singing the same songs we were singing from the 50s all the way to 2000. And then what happened was, like Noel said, while the white church was evolving, we were arguing with the generation above us about who's playing on Sunday, and they were singing songs from quack in the day. So the young generation then said, like Beck said, they were going to do their own thing. Then young bloods came out, they were doing their own thing. They weren't singing those kind of songs. Then there was this period where like Noel, Roger and Sam, because Noel said we weren't singing their song, but we were singing, they had a wicked worship song, I think, Beyond the Veil.
Exactly.
Yeah. Our generation was singing that. That was a massive song. But after that, it was that kind of that mentoring of this is what we should be doing, this is how we take it forward, that had all gone out the window because we were too busy arguing about who was playing on Sunday morning. So that's what happened after the Ron Canoli.
Let me ask you a question. Because that Roger and Sam album, for me, 80% of it.
Banging.
It's an amazing record.
Dopest
Bad Boy album.
Worship
Bad Boy album.
Going, right? Why do you, in your opinion, and you might have already said it, but I want to like make it, why? No, sorry. Why, in your opinion, did that album not do what it should have done, or the songs at least? Because they fit the bill for me.
Don't kill me, yeah. Don't kill me, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't kill me, yeah. But I listened to it again on YouTube, innit?
Yes.
I don't actually think it's that great.
1 minute, Matty. I'm coming back. I'm going to come back to that in a second. I'm going to tell you why that is. Go on.
So I think for me, our church was singing it. New Testament Church of God was singing it religiously. It was especially Beyond the Veil and Awesome Wonder. Those two were like continuous.
That was the tune. That was the tune. That was the one.
Our generation, we just knew them. I'm not gonna lie. Ask me about any other songs on the album.
Yeah,
there's a couple I know, but those are the two songs that I remember from the album. But
He's Jehovah Jireh.
So
it's great, but
1 minute. So check me out, right? That was my church. That all came out of Micah, right?
Right.
Oh yes.
For me, what happened? And it's the first time I'm speaking publicly about this. So I got
exclusive.
Exclusive.
World star.
So, Matty, I believe the reason why you think it's not that great is not because of the songs, right? What happened was, the band at church was me, Josh, Joey, sometimes Dermot. Like basically, the band was slamming, right? Now, and we had built up a relationship with those songs over 4 and 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a way that we played them that was dope, right? Comes down to recording the album.
And Roger and Sam chooses all a different band.
Got Axe. Now, you know who played on it. They're all dope, but they had to learn the songs in the week and had no relationship with them.
Wow.
So I was the only one from church in the band, right? So I'm sitting there in rehearsals in awe as well, because I'm playing Jerry's on kit, Mark Willis is on bass, Peter's there, like the band's slamming, Luke's on organ, Mike Brown. Yeah. And I'm sitting there thinking, wow.
But then I think that's it. That's to the point of the generations not, instead of nurturing and mentoring up.
Exactly.
So that goes back to the point where I said the older generation, they looked past us. Like, so it wasn't a thing where I wasn't like looking up to the older. It's just like I just felt like no one even really cared. Like you literally had to prove yourself.
I hear that.
Or you literally had to prove yourself on TV or in a pop world before you even can have a say.
Because I was one of the older out of the guys in the band at church. I truly believe that's one of the reasons I made it on that stage, because I had started building up my name in the way that you said. So I had a reputation for people seeing me on TV and doing stuff. So it's like I could hang now with Jerry and the guys who'd been doing it for ages. When 2-2s, we all know who the musicians we're talking about. Josh, listen, church on a Sunday at Micah was slamming so hard, right? Micah was known for worship the way Hillsong's known for worship, on a much smaller scale, right? But what happened is, the one chance to bring it out, look what happened.
Church. But I think a big part of that conversation that's missing, because I would kind of counter-argue that, was the fact that, and I wanted to say this earlier, when you look at Hillsong, it's actually more about the brand than it is the music. And I mean, some people may disagree with that, but Hillsong have created such a system that has gone way beyond the songs. It's gone way beyond the personalities. It's to the point now where if, Brian Houston or his wife, if they passed away, the brand is so big that it would continue. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look at some of our churches, if I don't want to name them, but if you look at some of our major churches, if their leader passed, I don't think a lot of us would have the confidence that the church would still go on in the same way. Like, I don't think that we focus on creating systems where these songs, because I personally feel like Roger and Sam's probably in the UK went as far as it could have, because I don't know that we had a vehicle to make those songs any bigger than it was. And so that's the reality of it. So I don't think it's a case of, us having to dumb down the music. I think there's been some great, there's been a lot that's not great, but there has been some that has been great, right? But I said it last week, I don't think they've had the vehicle to push forward. And to compare it to a Hillsong or even to the States that have huge systems in place to drive these songs forward, we can't make those comparisons. I think the problem here is not the songs or the sound of the church. It's that because those songs have been there for me. Some of them have been there, but they have had no vehicle. So I think the question we need to be asking and what we need to be focusing on, everyone in this room, is how we can create a system to push that forward. And what is that system going to look like, and how we can all play a part in that? Because without that, everything we're saying, really, it falls to the ground, because there's going to be more songs that come out, and we're going to have the same conversation in 5 years if there's no system in place for those songs.
I agree, Ryan. And that's where we ended up last week. And Matty made a very important statement that we didn't really get into, where he started speaking about the key holders. Right? Yes. And the key holders and pushing like...
But man, them will try to tell me that there's no key holders in it, so...
No, well, Matty, if you can...
There's always key holders. There's always key holders.
And if you can explain...
Who are the key holders?
Exactly.
What's the names of some of the key holders?
Look, these are the key holders, yeah? And I had this conversation with my dad, and he didn't want to admit it, but he admitted it in the end, yeah? He didn't want to admit it, but he admitted it in the end. Bruv, you have Nucci, yeah? You have Prophecy, you have Bethel, you have Kojic, you have Ruach, you have all of these. Cool. If we're talking about Caribbean churches, yeah, whoever they are, they're key holders, but they don't know that they're key holders. They don't actually know the power that they actually have. But what I'm basically trying to say is, if you are a bishop or if you're a praise and worship leader in a church like that, because we're so segregated, we don't ever come together. Like, cool, let's say, not that it matters, but in the African world, like, or the African gospel community, they come together like once or twice a year at Festival of Light, or is it Festival of Life or Festival
No, that's just Redeemed. That's just Redeemed.
Oh, Redeemed. Oh, whatever, isn't it? Like, it's a big.
They have the same issues, so you know.
Yeah, but no, because I have to disagree with that, because my friends who are not a part of Redeem, they go there and they work there, like they play there. We have nothing like that at all. Me and Smooth ain't playing on the same stage